If there are no questions about the rules, let's proceed with the opening statements. So the first opening statement is by Mr. McMullen.
Good evening, and thanks to the PAC for hosting tonight's event. My name is John McMullen. I'm married to my wife Kim, and together we're raising 3 young kids in the Woodlands, aged 8, 5, and 1. My retired mother lives in the Woodlands. My retired in-laws live in the Woodlands. If there's an issue that faces our community, there's a very, very good chance a member of my family is experiencing that very same issue. In short, I am deeply invested in our community. By way of background, I grew up in Bear Creek in West Houston. I received my finance degree from the University of Texas in 1996, my law degree from Harvard in 1999, and I have 14 years of experience as an energy attorney, where my practice focuses on building, buying, selling, and financing energy assets and energy companies. Professionally, I'm a shareholder with Greenberg Traurig, and I have recent experience running the legal departments and HR departments of an energy company. Politically, I'm a conservative. I'm a politically active conservative who has supported candidates at both the local level and the national level. Most prominently, I was a day one supporter of Senator Ted Cruz. My wife Kim and I hosted an event for Senator Cruz at our house when he was not widely known. In fact, he was only polling at 2 or 3% of the polls at the time. And to this day, I remain a member of Senator Cruz's finance team. I think when you consider the fact that I'm deeply invested in our community and that I'm uniquely qualified to serve, I think when you combine that, I think you'll see that I will earn your vote and represent the Woodlands very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mocha?
Hello everyone, thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you to the Texas Patriot PAC for hosting us, and thank you to the fellow candidates for taking your time out. I was born and raised here in Spring, Texas, just south of the Woodlands. I actually remember coming with some friends that are in this room to the waterway when it was still being built. I'm very invested in this community. It means the world to me that we make sure our transportation, our traffic, our security is all taken care of proactively and not retroactively. I am actually getting my degree in December, a dual degree in political science and economics from the University of Houston. Before I started attending U of H, I was in the Army for 4 years, which I did a year of service in Baghdad, Iraq. After I returned from Iraq, I started helping out with Habitat for Humanity in Kansas and became a member of the board of directors there for Habitat for Humanity. Like I said, this community means the world to me, and this is what we're doing today, the decisions that we make today will ensure that this community is sustainable for the future and our future generations of the Woodlands. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Hausman.
Hi, I'm Peggy Hausman. I'm a 30 to 31 year veteran here in the Woodlands. You may have danced, or you may have seen the waterway. I danced at the bottom of the lake. Yes, I'm 55 years old because I graduated from college in 1980. I have a bachelor's of science in criminal justice. I have been a professional housewife, mother, and volunteer and activist in the Woodlands. The last time I held a job was the first day I held my son. So, and I have to say that job has taught me a little bit of everything, and the ability to have an enormous amount of patience with a lot of people. I've served on the Community Association, I've chaired the Service Corporation Board, I've served on the TCID, as well as the Township Improvement District Board before they became the Township Board. I'm currently, now that Nelda's going to leave, the longest standing director. I won't want to say the oldest director. I'm the longest standing director on the Township Board. And thank you for coming out this evening, and I'm looking forward to the questions.
Thank you. My name is Bruce Tuff. I'm honored to be here tonight, and thanks to the Texas Patriot PAC for hosting this voter forum. I currently serve as chairman of the Woodlands Township. My past experience includes service as president of the Woodlands Community Association. That was one of the associations that were predecessor to our current government we have in the Woodlands now. I've community service and political service is in my blood. My family, my dad was hired by George Mitchell and the original Dream Team to build the Woodlands. So I'm very, very invested in the community. My family has grown up here. I have brought my family here, so we're now working on 3 generations in the Woodlands. I have 4 daughters. 2 are in college. I have 2 in schools in the Woodlands now, Mitchell and 9th grade campus, Woodlands High School. You know, the issues that I want to share with you tonight that I perceive as being big issues for the Woodlands Township are our infrastructure, mobility, transportation, law enforcement, sustainability, whether we incorporate or not. I hope we get to touch on all those issues because those are very important to the continuation of the Woodlands and the quality of life that we all enjoy. I'm honored to say that every year I've served in office, we've either lowered taxes or we have kept the taxes the same. And all that time we've increased the service delivery. So that has been a prideful accomplishment of mine and the service that I've had with other board members. Tonight, Mike Bass and Jeff Long are here, Peggy Houseman. I have the honor and privilege of serving with them. They are excellent board representatives for you. You know, one of the big issues in the future is going to be law enforcement, and law enforcement is something that we really focus on in the Woodlands. My time's up, so thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay. As a resident of the Woodlands, I am concerned that I may be paying a disproportional amount of taxes from Montgomery County. We are going to start with a series of questions relating to this concern. These questions relate to a handout that everybody has received. If you haven't, raise your hand, and I think there's still some left. As shown on Chart 2, since 2002, Montgomery County has issued over $300 million in bonds for new roads and bridges in the county. As shown on Chart 1 of the handout, the residents of the Woodlands are paying about 34% of the property taxes collected by the county that are used to repay these borrowings. Yet our understanding is that most, if not all, of the roads and bridges in the Woodlands were paid for by the Road Utility District. If this is the case, residents of the Woodlands are paying a lot of taxes for roads and bridges that have been built everywhere, but everywhere in the county except in our community. In 2 minutes, could you tell me what, if anything, is wrong with this analysis of the situation and what the Township Board has done or should do to ensure our community gets its fair share of county road expenditures? Mr. Rocha.
Like you said, this concerned citizen is thinking about the misproportionate of the percentage that they're paying into, that we're all paying into to the tax revenue, but we're not seeing the benefits. This brings up 2 issues. Obviously, if we're incorporated or if we become a city, this touches on it because we would then manage our own roads and our own bridges and all the other issues that resident brought up. However, with that extra cost comes maintaining and so on. To talk about the RUD and what we're doing with that, we need to ensure as a board, if elected, that we are working with the RUDs, with the county commissioner, and with all county officials to make sure that we are giving our citizens and our residents of the Woodlands Township what they deserve, and that is a fair share of that tax revenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tuck.
Okay, John, what I have done things about this, but if you want to really call it out the way it is, the county hasn't provided the services for the money to the Woodlands. It has not been done in the time that I've lived in the Woodlands, and it's not going to be done in the future. None of the roads in the Woodlands would have been built without the Woodlands Road Utility District. They financed and took that money and parlayed it into state and federal dollars to create the roads and all the infrastructure we have now. And they've been dedicated over to the county for the maintenance. So the county has basically done the maintenance of the roads. There's really been no county plan for mobility in the Woodlands, South County or North County. So you're exactly right. All the money, in fact, when I first approached the county and the commissioners about additional services for the Woodlands residents, instead of 1/3, it was about 4/5, and we were receiving about 1/5 of the return of the services. So if you do it on a straight money basis, yeah, they're failing us, the county is. But the demographic growth of the Woodlands and the accelerated growth of the Woodlands, it's either we do the roads ourselves, we provide our own law enforcement, we solve our own problems, because the county's not going to do it. The last bond proposal the county had was $200 million. Only $50 million was going to go into the greatest dense demographic of the county, that being the Woodlands Township that spends the most money. They're going to just divide the pie by 4, and everybody gets a share, and I guess everybody's supposed to agree and vote to it. I mean, what needs to be done is you identify high priority projects, and they be completed. That's how you do it. And you have a plan. You have to have a mobility plan. Right now, the Woodlands Township's got an ad hoc transportation committee. Mike Bass and Jeff Long are taking leadership on that committee and developing a plan for mobility in South County. We're now working with Commissioner Nowak and the Commissioner's office, and the Commissioner's formed the South County Mobility Project. So now proactive things are being done. And I hope that we can work with the county more in getting more services to the township. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will continue on with what Bruce had said. The township, whether we like it or not as residents here in the Woodlands, you live in a county form of government with a rural form of law enforcement. And the Woodlands, you may think we're a city, we may act like a city, but we're not a city. The township is not responsible for the roads. We don't own the roads here, quite frankly. This is all part of the future governance program that is being studied. Mobility, as of right now, is now working. Jeff and Mike are to put this plan together, not only for the Woodlands, to tell us exactly what the township needs to reserve, but also with the county to move forward. And I can say what we need to do in the Woodlands is make sure that there's a person in the county judge's position in the upcoming election that will look at the interest of where the population of Montgomery County is rising and where the revenue streams is. Should we take the tax dollars of Montgomery County, the question is, and divide it into 4s, or should we take a priority on which projects need to be done in which areas, instead of giving each commissioner a certain amount of money to spend? And I'm sure if you talk to the commissioners up at Montgomery County, they would not be that, well, I don't know. I'd have to say you'd have to talk to them. But would the commissioners agree with that? And would the county judge who presides over Commissioners Court be amenable to not taking the revenue stream and just quartering it? And so I now will let John answer.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, thank you, Peggy. A lot of what Peggy said I agree with. There are 3 things here I see. First, and I agree entirely, we need money to be prioritized better than it is, because there's been a history of the Woodlands not getting its fair share. Now, it's easy to say that, and any of us just saying that isn't going to change this. We need to apply political pressure, because there are elections coming up. And so I think we need to elect more candidates like Commissioner Nowak. We need to try to get more conservatives at the county level, and more conservatives that recognize the tremendous growth and economic engine that is the Woodlands. And even if we don't in one fell swoop get our fair share, or the 34% referenced on this on the chart, we need to make progress here. And this very well may be incremental progress, but we need to work hard to elect the right folks that get that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have 89 and a half sheriff officers assigned to the Woodlands. The county only pays for 6 of these officers, the township paying for the rest at the cost next year of over $8 million. With a population of over 101,000, and the 6 officers that the sheriff pays for equates to 1 officer for about every 17,000 people in the Woodlands. The 3rd and 4th handouts show a calculation that concludes that the sheriff's office is providing 1 patrol officer for every 2,763 people in the other areas of the county where the sheriff patrols. Using that ratio, the sheriff should be paying for 36 officers in the Woodlands instead of the 6 being provided, which would save the Woodlands taxpayers about $2.7 million a year. While these conclusions may be off a little due to limited information available, they do suggest that there is a significant discrepancy between the level of coverage the county is paying for in the Woodlands and what the sheriff provides for the rest of the county. In 2 minutes, could you tell me What, if anything, is wrong with this analysis, and what the Township Board has done or should do to address this concern? Mr. Tuff, you begin.
Okay. Well, okay, John, I've been working on this for a long time. So I actually remember going around to all the commissioners, telling Commissioner Nowak this, and I said, look, this is out of balance. We're paying all the resources to the county. We're getting no law enforcement. So and then I went to the sheriff, and the sheriff said, well, when you get real crime, I'll give you real cops. So it wasn't, he said the crime's in East County, the crime's in North County. It's not in the Woodlands. The Woodlands is a safe place. So we went through several analyses, a lot of studies as to how we're going to address that. And the township, actually the community associations of the Woodlands made a proactive decision to say, we're going to fund law enforcement on our own nickel, even though we know the county should be providing more deputies. And you're right, your analysis was spot on, John. I mean, this is an issue we've been dealing with. It's a political issue. The county, the Woodlands is funding 89 patrol deputies at the tune of probably $11 million. We have an Alpha Omega service. We also have park rangers, and we add all of those services, and then the county provides the additional law enforcement to the other areas. So it is on the backs of the Woodlands. So the political decision is, do we not have that law enforcement and deal with these random crime events that occurred over the weekend and on Friday, or do we have the law enforcement that has been provided in the Woodlands? That's a policy decision. The Board of Directors addresses that decision every budget. We've decided to add more. We're adding more patrol deputies. We're going to accelerate 3 more patrol deputies in the Woodlands Township to address recent crime issues. With a urban type environment that we have now, the county just can't keep up with the law enforcement that's required. But I'd encourage Commissioner Nowak and I'd encourage the county to provide a additional service. It's disparity. Very clear on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And I will continue where Bruce left off, because this went back to when the WCA, the Woodlands Community Association, and the TWA, the Woodlands Association, merged together, and there was an actual law enforcement committee. Not only do you pay for the county, we also pay for, which are more or less a visionary type law enforcement, the mounted patrol over at the Walmart area on 242, as well as the shopping center, the town center area. And then, of course, then you're paying your state dollars for the highway patrol, and then you're paying county dollars for the constable as well. And then we also have first responder type agreements with Shenandoah and Oak Ridge. So it may not be that there's the right amount, there may be the right amount of people on the street. It's a matter of who do you blink twice when somebody's safety is at hand? No. My number one concern as a director on any board here in the Woodlands is to make sure every resident of Montgomery County lays their pillow on their head at night safely. Now, when the sheriff said, and I don't blame the sheriff at the time, and it was Guy Williams who said, the crime here in Montgomery County is up in the east portion. He needed to put his manpower there because there were actual felonies happening. So whether he was funded by the Commissioner's Court appropriately or not would be something you'd have to ask the Sheriff's Department about. But at that time, it is the decision of the sheriff. In the event of a felony crime here in Montgomery County, they can call their officers. We contract with the Sheriff's Department, and it is the Woodlands Patrol, and we are contractually with them saying they will not pull these officers off the street, the ones we're paying. But if there's a felony crime in Montgomery County, the sheriff can pull any and all officers to that crime. And so until we decide exactly what we want to be and what form of governance, the law enforcement mechanism has to be supplemented by the township.
Thank you.
Yeah, I see 2 issues here. So the first is, what level of public safety resources should we have? Should we continue to pay for the 83, as the board recently did, increase it to 86 in Montgomery County? And then secondly, are we getting our fair share? And on the first issue, I entirely agree with the board. My family and I moved from a master plan community that did not turn out as we hoped. In that community, crime became a major issue, and as it did, many folks moved out. And as soon as a lot of folks moved out, the reputation of the school system suffered. And as soon as the reputation of the school system suffered, more folks moved out. And then as more of those folks moved out, the development of the area was not what we had hoped for, and not what folks in the Woodlands expect. And so I applaud the board for making the decision to pay again for these policing, because that's what our residents want, and that's what we deserve. The issue of how do we more equitably get our fair share here it's related to my earlier answer, which is we've got to contest this in the political process. Because I don't think we can make a serious threat that we're going to pull or fire our deputies or not renew our contract, because that's not a credible threat. And our folks here don't want that. I think instead the fight to have is, in this upcoming election, grab the would-be candidates and explain to them that we're not getting our fair share and we're annoyed about it. And there will be electoral consequences to them if they don't heed that message.
Mr. Rocha.
You know, we've all the candidates have mentioned basically the same thing, and it's what we've done, and thank you for the 3 more deputies. I mean, I live in Panther Creek, so the McDonald's was within walking distance from my house, and the 24-hour fitness is where I work out. So these are issues that affect all of the people in the Woodlands area, as well as the tourists that come into the Woodlands area. So we need to, again, ensure that we are being proactive, and that's going to take a candidate that is going to think about the future of the Woodlands. We cannot wait for McDonald's and 24-hour fitnesses to happen. We have to be proactive. And I definitely understand, and if the crime is allocated differently around the county, but we need to make sure that our residents are taken care of, as Peggy was saying. And I'm sure that's Bruce's top priority as well as mine, and I'm sure John feels the same. Safety and security is our top priority, and proactive is the key. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you do a rebuttal?
You may.
The other thing is, what I want people to understand too is the township does not just employ or pay for supplemental law enforcement. We also have an entire division at the township under neighborhood services that are constantly out there with the watch members. And many of the crimes are crimes of opportunity. If somebody leaves their garage door open during the day, their laptop and their purse on the front seat, and I get a call on Saturday afternoon that says their car was broke into at Walmart because they had the laptop on the front and their purse, and it's unlocked, those are crimes of opportunity. But we have an entire department here educating our children and our residents.
Okay, thank you.
I think I'm the first question.
You are the first one. Precinct 2 Commissioner Craig Doyle hopes to eventually connect Woodlands Parkway to the new 249 toll road. This extension of the Woodlands Parkway would provide more business for the toll road as drivers look for faster ways to get into Houston. Woodlands Parkway was designed to never extend beyond 2978 and cannot easily be expanded to carry the additional traffic. The traffic of Woodlands Parkway from Kirkendall to 2978 will likely greatly increase if this extension is made, with associated negative impacts on the quality of life for those who live in that part of the Woodlands. In 2 minutes, could you please tell us your views on Commissioner Doyle's plan, and what, if anything, the Township Board has done or should do with respect to this plan and other transportation and traffic mitigation planning?
Well, I can answer that one probably in less than 30 seconds. Is Craig Doyle is not seeking re-election, and the commissioner back and that's going to be re-elected in that area should be listening to the people in that area. If it's not built for capacity, if we cannot hold that structure here in the Woodlands, and we shouldn't have a commissioner voting to extend it to the toll bridge, period. As far as roads here, we work very diligently with the commissioners in each one of the precincts and have a very good relationship, the township staff, I would hope, with the commissioners and the county judge as well, to work within the purviews of the road construction. But once again, the township is a special purpose district which does not make the final decision on these road connections, nor would they be the responsible party for maintaining them. We also need to have the studies done on these roads to see what the capacity is. If Craig Doyle has announced that he's already opening that, then I really honestly would say we need to look for a new commissioner at this upcoming time to see exactly if everything you've just said, John, is true, and I would have to look at all the reports on this, then we probably should have a commissioner that's not willing to open that up to the toll road. And I'm sure, in listening to residents back there, that's their worst nightmare would be the traffic on that road.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Peggy. This is a tough issue. Montgomery County has already acquired a lot of these right-of-ways, and as a result, we're somewhat constrained in what we can do. So I think we need to think about what we can actually control here. And what we control are two things. One is, as Peggy's indicated, and as I've indicated before, we can elect good people. But in this case, I don't want to overpromise or suggest this is a winnable fight. It very well may not be. The county the county has a real desire to connect that road to 249, and I'm not convinced, frankly, we'll be able to stop it. And so then the question is, if it happens, what do we do? And I think what we do about it is we increase our policing. We do what we can to make sure that with all the new traffic, that we're not bringing more and more crime into our neighborhoods, and that's going to cost money. But I think this is a case where it's frustrating, but a lot of the groundwork has been laid for this decision. And aside from applying political pressure, there's not a whole lot I think we can do.
Okay, Mr. Rocha.
I agree with John as far as saying there's not a lot that we can do. This is a county issue, and the people of the Woodlands are not going to be extremely acceptable of this idea. To me, this reminds me of 1960. Basically, Woodlands Parkway would become a 1960, another loop outside of Houston that would get people from A to B, and it would be detrimental to the community if we are not proactive. Like I said, maybe more constables, deputies, maybe lowering the speed limit, but these are all out of our hands. We can encourage our residents to vote people in that are going to do these said issues or take care of these issues. But as a board, we just can't do it. But we can encourage our residents to call their commissioners and get out there and vote in November and next November and every November until we get what we want.
Okay, thank you.
Wait, who gets the answer?
Okay, conclusion. All right, so this is a battle between Precinct 3 and Precinct 2. So if you live in the Woodlands, your maximum expansion for Woodlands Parkway is 6 lanes. That's it, period. It wasn't designed to handle the additional traffic flow, so if you live in the Woodlands, you don't want the connectivity and all the additional traffic in the Woodlands and in Precinct 3. If you're in Precinct 2, you want to get people more mobile out of your Precinct 2 into the Woodlands who live outside there. You know, you can make an argument each way. Right now, that project is proceeding forward. I know there's opposition in the Woodlands for having that increased traffic. You cannot make a freeway out of Woodlands Parkway, so naturally there's going to be opposition in the Woodlands to that. It's just not going to be something that's going to enhance our quality of life unless you live in the Woodlands and you're driving to 249. This is a project that will probably happen. All of these road projects are through placed in priority projects. I mean, it's one on the books, and there may be other arteries that can take the traffic load that might eliminate demand. This is all going to come out in a traffic study that is being proposed, and the township is looking at it very seriously. So, and I think all the answers are great on the question. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Okay, I think Mr. McMillan's next. As a segue from discussing our relationship with the county, let's turn to the question of incorporation of the Woodlands. Many people in the Woodlands believe that some of the assumptions used in the incorporation study that the Township commissioned several years ago were flawed and the study needs to be redone. Do you share this view? If so, what changes would you make to the assumptions, and when do you believe a new study should be commissioned? You each have 2 minutes to respond.
So yes, I do believe that study was flawed. I was in the room when the consultants were giving that report. And admittedly, I arrived a little late, but in that question and answer session, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was an aspect to that study that was trying to scare our seniors. And so I don't believe that the cost of incorporation truly would be a 75% increase in our taxes. Now, that doesn't mean that I support incorporation. The short answer is, for me, is I'm going to keep an open mind. I think that as far as when we should reissue that study, I think we should do it soon. And I think some of the flaws in that study related to our policing. I mean, the reality is we're paying for 83 of our 89 deputies in Montgomery County right now. Admittedly, we benefit from the back office service, but that's a big cost that for those 83 deputies, we would not repay were we to incorporate. I think that's a major issue that was missing. The other thing that we need to think about as we evaluate this is, what is our trade going to look like in Montgomery County? You know, we have assets within the Woodlands that are Montgomery County assets today, the libraries, the courthouse. And Montgomery County very well may want us to incorporate, because the truth is it would very likely increase the cost of governance to the Woodlands. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean incorporation is a bad thing. I think we don't know yet, because I think our residents don't fully know the true cost of incorporation or fully understand the true benefits of incorporating. And so what I can pledge is that if elected, I'll keep an open mind on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rocha.
I do think it's flawed, and there's evidence that it was flawed, and 75% increase is outrageous. And whatever company we hired, I hope that we go after them in some way legally or whatever way we need to. But to scare our residents away from something that could benefit them in the long run is wrong. We can't do that. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with the situation, I want to be honest with all of you, but I do know that if you try to scare somebody out of something, it's wrong. We can all agree on that. And that's something that was done to the Woodlands residents, the Woodlands Township residents. I am for incorporation and the big picture. It's something that we do need to take into consideration for our residents, and I do want to vote from our residents. If I'm elected on the board, I will seek a vote from our residents for incorporation. This is not a board decision. This is a board and the township residents' decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dunn.
Okay, now we have a debate. I disagree with these two, because I was on the board when we did the study. You can say it's flawed, but I'll just give you one of the statistics. The board took the previous study that was done. We didn't let our financial consultant look at it, and they applied the financial numbers to the assumptions that we developed for incorporation. I'm for limited government, I'm not for incorporation. And one of the reasons why is when we incorporate, it's going to cost you more money. I can guarantee you that. Just the law enforcement component itself, we're paying $11 million for law enforcement. What we have is patrol deputies on the ground, driving in cars, doing law enforcement. The incorporation study said to have a police department with jails, police, administration, detectives, crime labs, everything else is $28 million. That's for like a Class C type law enforcement. So you look at the cost of incorporation, the layers that are applied to it. That's why I'm for limited government. Once you incorporate, you start making ordinances. You have to have courts. You have to have a director of public works. We take over all the county services from Commissioner Nowak. That's $100 million. So those are costs you cannot avoid. All the street maintenance itself, and those are based on estimates. So, I'll give John and Jason Park credit. You can say, it's a little high or a little inflated, but when we're doing studies like this, the worst thing you can do is say, hey, let's be a city. It's only going to cost you 50 cents versus the 26 you're paying now. So we wanted to make sure that we did it right. We wanted to make sure that the assumptions were applied properly, and we wanted to show a total in cost. I think we can run a city cheaper. I think we can do it right. I'm not for doing it now. I am not for being a city, so I'm against becoming a city. I do ultimately believe we have to be a city because we only have a certain time limit, or we'll be part of the city of Houston. I think we can do it right and efficient. We have the best form of government now, and it works really, really well.
Thank you. Mrs. Hausman.
I'm going to differ with all three of these gentlemen. We have a wonderful form of governance for this day and age. We put on the board of directors, when we did that study, yes, it was flawed. I agree 100% with John. When I walked into there, I thought they were there scaring it. I vocalized it on the board as well. I do believe, though, that it is going to cost quite a bit to incorporate. I do believe, though, the study didn't go far enough to go out to the commissioners and to Montgomery County to see what we could contractually obligate ourselves with, and not necessarily incorporation, although that may be the end result, but there may be a form of governance that the Woodlands can put together, which is a contractual obligation with Montgomery County. So our county taxes go down at the same time we maintain services that would be equal to or above what we have currently. So as we have put stopgaps on the township to say, in the event that crime all of a sudden surpasses what we can take care of, what the county can take care of, when the quality of life of our residents are questioned, that study is resurrected, reevaluated, and replaced into the top of the priorities for the residents of the Woodlands here. But was the study flawed altogether? Probably not. It was probably what needed to happen. That was the cornerstone of the first form of governance. This goes back as far as Lee Brown. So I mean, this has been going on for 20-some years in negotiations with the city of Houston. We have a great agreement with the city of Houston now. The Woodlands is not finished yet. So, you know, possibly it would be better if we waited 5 years, but there are definite stopgaps at the township in place to say, it's time to revisit this and revisit it hard. So was it flawed? Probably. Was it flawed to the degree that these two gentlemen on the end here believe it was? No. But were there some assumptions in there that I didn't like? You betcha.
Okay, thank you.
Can I rebut that?
Yes, you may.
Yes, so let me be clear. My view is not that I'm currently calling for incorporation. I'm not. I think that there's an effort, we should begin an effort to start planning for this, were we to one day incorporate. That's very different than putting myself out there and saying, I think we should incorporate, because I agree with Bruce, I agree with Peggy, that this would be a more costly form of government. And there's no immediate need for us to do so right now. But like many of you, I don't want HPD in the Woodlands. I don't want Metro in the Woodlands. But there's no immediate need to take that step. I think perhaps where I disagree with Bruce is the extent of the flawed assumptions of the study, but that's a minor point. The broader point is I am not calling for an incorporation referendum today.
Okay.
I'm going to rebuttal one. I don't want anyone to think this evening, and not that that wasn't a great comment, we are not going to have HPD on the streets in the Woodlands. We have a phenomenal agreement with the city of Houston. So we do have a time element there to figure out what is the best form of governance here. So I don't want anyone to think, but you also have to remember one part of this is the water districts. We have several MUDs in the Woodlands that all are at separate taxing entities. So the minute I tell somebody in Grogan's Mill that they get a $1 increase in their water rate, and if anybody's looked at their water bill in the last month, that's a significant difference. So when you're merging all those MUDs together under incorporation, you better look at the bottom line of your tax dollars.
Right. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, this may be a good point to stop and let you ask each other a question. Mr. Rocha, as it's your turn to respond, you may ask the first question. Please keep your question to 30 seconds and the response to 2 minutes.
I guess we'll continue on that conversation. I would like to ask John the question of, in 2047, as you may know, is when the HPD could start roaming our streets. So what are we doing to make sure that what are we doing to watch what we're doing to not become a city in 2020 or 2047, so that HPD is not running our streets?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. The way I think about it is we have the luxury of time today. And I think about my 14 years of experience in the private sector here. And what this is going to be is a negotiation. It's going to be a negotiation with Montgomery County as to how we structure our deals to incorporation. And it's going to be a public education that we've got to do with our citizens. And so I think if we wait until 2040 something, we're not going to have a lot of leverage. But today in 2013, I think we can keep running these studies and find out not studies, I think we can have our township staff keep examining what it would look like were we to incorporate. And you know what, the first result we get may not be attractive, but there's no urgency today. I love the fact that we have the policing we do. And I share your, Jason, and probably the vast majority of the folks' view that I don't want HPD or Metro in the Woodlands. But that is a long, long time off. And so I think what we should do is study this, take a mature adult view here, and try to find out what this costs, try to educate our public about what the true benefits of incorporation are, and wait till we get the better deal. Because from Montgomery County's perspective, if we incorporate, they're going to be shedding a lot of cost. And that is going to be attractive to the county at some point in time. And I'm not advocating waiting until 2040 when we don't have the leverage we do today, but let's check this out every couple of years and see where we stand.
Okay, Mr. Tubbs.
Okay. Can I just answer that question, John? Just go along the line on that, or?
Well, it's your opportunity to ask a question, so.
Okay.
You can do a
You
rebuttal
can
if
ask
you like.
yourself a question.
Yeah. Let me ask myself a question. What has the Woodlands done about incorporation, public engagement? And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, because I think it's a really important issue that everybody understands. The Woodlands Township Board of Directors has had a public engagement process that lasted over 2 years. It was initiated by the board, involving focus groups and town hall meetings to engage the community on, do you want to be a city or not? This is what it costs, and this is what you're going to have to pay. And here's the study, here's the book, here's the financial models, and here's all the assumptions. So we engaged the community, and about 89% said we don't want to be incorporated. We want to pay more taxes. We like the way it is now. It's a pretty darn good place to be, and our quality of life is pretty exceptional, and the cost is very low. So that was the outcome of the incorporation study. So what is the Board of Directors doing now? We're not sitting on that, and we're not saying, okay, this will never be an issue. I predict that we will be incorporated probably within the next 5 years, certainly within the next 10 years. And what's going to do that, it's going to be a trigger event. Something's going to go wrong. We don't have self-control over it, and we're going to say, okay, we're going to have a corporation referendum election. The voters are going to go up or down on it. If we vote to become a city, we'll take over roads and water. Taking over water is more expensive for everybody. Taking over roads is more expensive. It is going to cost more money. But the Board of Directors on the township is going to revisit this issue. We're having a strategic planning retreat to look at the models that we've looked at, the assumptions, and what are our planning steps if this does happen. And we have to become a city. Do we have the capital? Do we have the reserves? Do we have the appropriate procedures and step in place to do it? It'll be an incorporation election. Once it's up or down, if it's up, then we become a city. It approves a charter, and we are a city right then and there.
Okay, Mrs. Houser.
And I'll ask myself the same question. What are we doing as the Board of Directors? The Board of Directors, and that's why I just really want to, because there are really only 3 issues, but these are closing remarks. So I'm going to pass my question on. I'm sorry.
Okay. Mrs. McMullen.
Sure. My question is to Jason, and it's, you know, you've mentioned that you're particularly focused on younger residents. And my question is, how has the current board served our younger residents, and what should they be doing differently with respect to our younger residents?
Thank you, John. I have mentioned supporting our younger residents of the township. I don't know the exact percentage, but we have a lot of residents that are under the, we'll say, minimum age of the current youngest board of director. And that's terrific. But I do believe that I do believe, though, that when everyone is represented in this community, it benefits everybody. It's not just about, if I'm elected, I represent only the young people. It's if I'm elected and represent the young people, then all the people in the Woodlands are equally represented and taken care of, and all voices are heard in union. And that's what it's about. It's about moving this community forward with one voice. But without that one voice, we have nothing. And as far as what the board has done, I've been to board meetings, and I have been maybe the only person in there that didn't have an agenda. But I did have an agenda as far as I wanted to learn what was going on with the board of directors, because I was running for board of directors. So let's say I was the only person in that board meeting, minus the Cub Scouts or the Boy Scouts that were saying the Pledge of Allegiance. That's a bit scary to think that our people of all ages are not that interested in our politics. How are we going to maintain our accountability on the board if we do not have our residents going to these meetings or reading our posts via Facebook, Twitter, whatever social media site you want to use, or the Villager or the Courier, whichever newspaper you read. But we just need to make sure that as a board, we are encouraging all residents of all ages to go to those meetings or to really understand what's going on politically in the Woodlands Township. Thanks.
Okay, I think, Mr. Tuff, it's your turn as the first person to answer the question. As a Tea Party, our membership believe that we are overtaxed at every level of government. The township lowered the tax rate by 7.3% this year, which is great. But many residents of the Woodlands had their assessments increased by more than the lowered tax percentage, resulting in the dollar amount of their taxes increasing. While increases in home value may make us wealthier on paper, it does not put cash in our pockets to pay the higher taxes unless we sell our homes. What opportunities do you see for enabling the township to lower the actual taxes we are paying? You each have 2 minutes to respond.
Okay. We really addressed the tax issue this year because when J.R. Moore, the tax assessor, sets an effective tax rate, that takes into consideration the inflated value of the home, the increased cost. So the effective tax rate was 29.6, I believe, or 29.8, something like that, and we went.
It was 30.6 or
to-
something, yeah.
We went below the effective rate. So we made a conscious decision as a board to go below the effective rate that was set by J.R. Moore. I think the only other city that's in Montgomery County was Shenandoah. The rest did not do that. And you're right, John. What happens is your house inflates, it appreciates in value, and some of the government entities say, okay, we're not raising your taxes, but you really are, because the inflated value of the home does raise the taxes. But we lowered them 7%, below the effective rate. The only way that you'd be paying more taxes per dollar is if your valuation exceeded that 7% effective rate increase, and then what you should do is protest to the county appraiser and lower the appraised value of your home. But I'll stand on the fact that the township, I'm very, very proud of the township board, lowering below the effective tax rate 2 consecutive years in a row, and every year the township has been in existence. I mean, we should be a model for the other governments. Let's say, hey, you guys watch us. We can do it. We can run a government efficiently. We can do it below the effective tax rate. We lower the taxes every year. Hey, you guys try to do it. So I think, well, my commitment is to keep the taxes low and keep the services exemplary. And that's what I've done. That's been my pledge every year, and I've lived up to it. So I'm going to challenge every other government entity to get after it and do that too.
Okay, Mrs. House.
And I agree with that. I agree with all of it, but I think this year we went below the effective tax rate. Last year we didn't. There was a motion to go, but it failed. There were only 2 directors that wanted to lower it to that extent last year. I was one of them. But anyway, what you can do to lower your taxes here is make sure that your economic development engine here in the Woodlands stays well tuned, because only 46% of your actual taxes are property values. You have your sales tax revenue that is collected, you have your event taxes, you have a whole list of taxes that are collected. So to keep the property rates low, you need to keep a well-balanced economic machine here. So you want your sales tax revenue to continue to increase, and at the same time keep your property values in all the areas of Woodlands, not just the newer areas in the Woodlands, but the older areas. Those property values are as important to keep maintained as it is the brand new sale of homes. There's residences in, as well as Creekside, but as in Grogan's Mill, that have seen the appraisal rates go up extremely high when we redo a massive park in that area, or we maintain, or the commissioner comes in and re-improves those roads. But at the same time, you want to maintain the properties around these areas that derive sales tax revenues. So with that, it's a balancing act on property taxes. Do I think that our property rate can go down and that the township should continue? Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mullen.
Yeah, thank you. You know, here I think we need to start by tipping our hat to Bruce, Peggy, and all the other board members in the room.
And they're all here, but Dr. Rob.
And Dr. Rob, too, if you're watching. The board has done a tremendous job here. I mean, this was a real win for limited government. This was a real win for conservative principles. And my hats are off to them. And so what can we do going forward? I mean, One, I think as Peggy indicated, the Woodlands is a wonderful place not only to live, but to conduct business. And our commercial development is the envy of many, many other areas, not only of Greater Houston, but across the country. That is a really good thing we've got here. And I think it's incumbent upon this board to, one, recognize that, and two, not mess it up. And finally, I sound like a broken record here, but the other thing we can do is try to apply political pressure at the county level to get a greater share of greater share of the county services for the tax dollars we're currently paying.
Okay, Mr. Rocha.
To save time, so we can get more questions in from the residents, I absolutely agree with all three of these candidates. You guys have done a tremendous job, all the board that's in the room, and Rob that's not here right now. So thank you to that. Hats off to you, and thank you.
Thank you. I think it's Mrs. Hausman's turn. Could you please state your position on the following township expenditures? 1.2 million contribution each year to the Convention and Visitors Bureau, 1.4 million each year for the mounted patrol, 800,000 a year to subsidize the park and ride losses, and a trolley and water cruiser service which depends on federal subsidies that may go away to minimize the township's level of subsidies. You each have 2 minutes to respond.
Okay, I probably can't respond on all of them, but everybody knows my stance were on the trolleys. Or on the water cruisers, or water taxis, then became water cruisers. As I have said many times, I believe that was a commercial venture that had no business being sent over to the government. If a private industry cannot make them profitable, what makes you think you should dump it on the laps of taxpayers? So my voice was well heard on the water cruisers. The park and ride, no. I mean, we needed to raise the rates on the park and ride rates. We do need to keep the metro system here in the Woodlands, but we should look at what a round trip rate is for Rosemary Rowe to drive down to Greenway Plaza and back on her car insurance, her maintenance. Why should somebody be subsidized in a bus at taxpayers' expense? But we also need to give that committee that currently is in mobility an opportunity to bring that study forward to see whether we should fund it or we should not. Will it impact our economic development here in the Woodlands by shutting down those park and rides? I don't know. Or would it behoove us to keep them going? As far as the mounted patrol, as I've stated in the past, and I'll continue to state, those are a wonderful form of visibility in the massive parking area around our economic engine here in the Woodlands. Should part of that money be spent by General Growth, who owns that private mall? Probably, yes. But do they not also pay an enormous amount to us with the sales tax revenue that is brought forward, as well as Market Street? If we did not have the visibility, we could end up like Greens Point Mall. And the last thing that we would want is our mall in any way or form not to bring forward stores such as Nordstrom's that is opening there and continue developing in the area.
Sure, thanks, Peggy. Let me start with the mounted patrol. Yeah, I think, as I said earlier, I'm never going to cut corners on public safety. And my question with the mounted patrol is just, I believe you said 1.4 million. Is the 1.4 million we spend there, could that money be better spent by more deputies or not? I don't know. It may not be an either or. I mean, when you consider some of the recent crime we've experienced here, is it a blip or is this part of a trend? And I think it's too early to say, but you know, I'm not seeking to cut the mounted patrol. If anything, I'm seeking to supplement our policing resources. With respect to the park and ride, the way I think about this is that we should intelligently pursue the federal money. I think this is something that Mike Bass and Jeff Long Transportation Committee have done a good job on. They've increased our community's awareness of our ability to grab some of this federal money that, for whatever reason, I think in Montgomery County as a whole, we haven't done a great job of that. And so, with respect to the park and rides, I think we should, one, intelligently pursue federal money, and two, where need be, increase the cost to the users of that service. For example, as Peggy suggests, I'm fine with increasing the fare from $10 to $12, because I don't like the idea of the 110,000 residents of the Woodlands subsidizing the 1,600 of us who take the park and rides. And I think third, with respect to the trolleys, my view on the trolleys is that I oppose a system that the trolleys have a 25-minute route time. I just think that's entirely too long and will not attract the ridership that will justify it. Now, there very well may be a trolley system that I would support, but I can't imagine a business person being in town center and faced with the decision of where to go to lunch, walking out of his or her building, waiting 25 minutes for the trolley, going to lunch, waiting 25 minutes again, having lunch, waiting 25 minutes again for the trolley to take them back to work. And so there may be a trolley system I support, but probably not as currently construed.
Thank you. Mr. Rocha?
I want to echo both Peggy and John's voice on the trolley system, or the water cruiser taxi, whatever title we name it today. It's something that's not doing well. It's something that we are going to keep for the next few years because of the boathouse and whatnot. But once that contract is up with the federal government with the boathouse, if it's not giving us revenue, I would definitely get rid of it. As far as the mounted patrol, that's something, security again is very important to every board member, and I'm sure to everybody in this room. It's not about how much money we're spending, it's about how many purses have we prevented from getting snatched, or how many car burglaries have we prevented because during the holiday season because of those mounted patrols. That's the number that I would love to see that we'll never see, and that's because we have those mounted patrols. And then for the park and ride, the Woodlands vision statement or mission statement is half nature, half business, and so nature and the environment is very important. So we need to make sure that we are doing something to keep the park and ride here, because as a wooded area, as the Woodlands, you would think that we have the environment in some capacity in mind. And so we need to make sure that that stays here, and that we are properly raising the rates for the people that ride the park and ride, and that it's not subsidized by the residents that don't take it. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go real fast. 4 very complicated issues, and there's a lot of facts behind them. The water cruisers, those are a significant amenity that are identified with the Woodlands. They're on all our stationery. That's why businesses and people come to our shops and they go to the waterway to see it. I mean, what would you have in the waterway if you didn't have a water taxi? They're not funded by ad valorem tax dollars. They're funded by hotel tax. And the hotel tax comes from people who do not live in the Woodlands, who stay in the Woodlands, who like the water cruisers and like to ride on them. We allocated $500,000 of hotel tax, and you know who wanted that? The hotels. The hotels said, we like the water cruisers, we want them on the water, you're taking tax money from me, I want you to make it, I want it there. The board went one step further. We said, you know what, we're going to make them more efficient, and we're going to make them not to be a debt operation, and they're now a profit center. They're actually making money, they're turning a profit. So that has been done through the leadership of Nelda Blair on the CVB, and it is turned around. It's doing now. We reduce the hours of operation. What would you do without them? You'd have a waterway with no water cruisers. The mounted patrol, they're another amenity, but a safety feature. They patrol our Woodlands Mall. That's what makes us unique. We have people on horses, and that's why Nordstrom's coming. That's why businesses are relocating here. That's why people say, wow, look at the Woodlands. This is really great. I love the way it is. That is also paid through the CVB. If we had a real CVB that got the hotel tax and all the money that's to it would be 4B money that's allocated to it, being twice as much as what we're paying for the CVB. We're doing half as much, or we're doing twice as much with half as much money. As far as the park and ride go, this thing is complicated. We have almost 800,000 people that go on I-45 and down. We have the most successful park and ride in the country here. We have 3 of them, 3 park and ride operations. It is going to be a significant cost to manage those at no expense to our taxpayers, and that's what our charge is, and that's what we're insistent on not having done. But we increased the rates as a first preventative step to make the users pay for it.
Rebuttal.
Okay.
Rebuttal on the waterway taxis. If you look at the accounting of the waterway taxis, and I encourage everybody here in this debate tonight to go online, nowhere do you see the $500,000 of capital that was originally invested in those on that P&L statement.
Okay.
So to say it's a profitable entity, you could put kayaks on the waterway at no cost.
Okay, you are out of rebuttals, Peggy.
I'll be polite, John. Thank you.